All right, so here's what we're looking at now in terms of the collage. I stumbled across this image and it gave me an idea because one of the first images I found when I was going through here was this one of the piano. And it occurred to me I could take that one and use the piano keys and fill each one with an image. And that might be a way to go. Okay, but just as a reference on what we're looking for in terms of collaging photographs is taking multiple images and putting them together in a new and unique sort of way. Okay, that is the overall objective. Okay, so you're taking these and you're spelling out, you're basically creating new images. Okay, that's what it is. So you're taking these source images and you're coming up with something just innovative, new, and different. You're not just taking a bunch of images and slapping them together onto the page. They need to interact in some way. Right, so that would be one way to do it. Like I was saying with this poster, I'm not super excited about that one. But I did find a few of these images going through and looking at Unsplash and Pixabay. And I've got this image here of Billie Holiday. And we've got this one. I was really liking these two dancers right here. Okay, and then obviously you saw that one before. I liked this image here. Was kind of thinking about the way that she's facing this way and having the action come out like that. So if I wanted to do, basically, if I take a look at where my background is, I've already got the background layer created here. When we're talking about creating this in a collage style, it's similar to cut and paste. Okay, cutting things out and then moving them over to another image. You've got a couple different ways that you can do this. The lasso tool and the Polygon Lasso tool are both good options. With the lasso tool, what's going to happen is it is a click and drag sort of tool. As I click, I'm going to basically draw in the line. That would be the equivalent of me cutting with a pair of scissors. Now, I have a lot of practice with working with the lasso tool. So if I go and cut out less than I want, like let's say I just have this much, as soon as I let go, what's going to happen is it's going to snap to the end. Okay, so I've cut out less than I want. I want to go in and adjust it, and I've got buttons to adjust it right up here. If I want to add more to the selection, so for instance, I want to select this arm over here, I need to make sure that the Add To selection is selected, and then I can draw out over this. Okay, and then come back around that way. When I let go, now that is selected. I can add some of the hair here. Okay, doesn't have to be perfect. If you were cutting this out with scissors, probably wouldn't be either. Okay, so I select all those and I get all that. Now, if I find I've got too much in some spots, like let's say I don't want that pink right here, what I would do is, here is the subtract from selection. I click that, and this is a little bit trickier. Basically, it's a draw around the area you don't want. When you let go, it's going to select it, and now you see it's actually following that selection. So I can add to, and let's get some of this in, and then subtract from and take out some of this. All right. So just like that, I've got a rough selection made, and then I can go ahead and choose the move tool, and you'll notice the little scissor comes up, and I can drag it over to my design here, and boom, I've got the image started right there. Okay, now these don't have to be perfect. If you take a look at that example one up here, okay, she's cut off in a weird way. It's whatever is going to make the image work right for you. Okay, so let's say I take that and let's make her a little bit bigger here. Okay, now as you can tell, she is definitely a different element from the background. The background, everything in the background is kind of receding into background. Okay, so I've got somebody listening to music right there. I can go and drop in, let's say I wanted to get the dancers going on here. The other tool I can use here is the Polygon Lasso tool. This one works a little bit differently. in that it's a click and release. So when I click, it's going to create a line. Where I click next, it's going to create another one. Okay, so this is great if you were trying to cut things out that are at right angles or at specific angles that don't have very smooth organic features, or you want it to look very cut out. Okay, Control D to deselect, by the way. So I can take this figure here and just start kind of clipping around the edge. So if I just did a very kind of quick and sharp selection with the scissors, so that I wasn't really worried about getting nice curves to it. I was just focused on getting the character cut out. That would be the equivalent of the Polygon Lasso tool. Okay, so I take and I'm cutting her out here. Let's get that hand through out. Okay, so each one of these I'm making a little click on it and then turning. And then when you are done, make sure that you're all the way out. If you double click, it's going to snap back to the beginning spot. So this will have picked up some of this on the bottom, which I can do the same thing up here, the add to, subtract from, and I can make that a straight line across that way, and double click, and it's going to end up wrapping it. Okay, same thing. I can click and drag this to wrong one. There we go. No. There we go. And let it go. And there's a dancer there. Okay, now the other thing that you're going to need to bring in is your vector art that is that you created in the last assignment. Now I don't have mine here because I did it on the other computer, but the same basic thing applies, except with that one you get the benefit of, because you created in vectors, all you've really got to do is select all the elements and drag it in. Now this is in Photoshop and that is in Illustrator. Doesn't matter. You can, if you want, open it up in Photoshop first. You can open your Illustrator files in Photoshop. What you've got to do to make that work is to take and from Photoshop, go copy paste, and or not copy paste, from Photoshop, go file, open, and then find that file. Okay, so that's how you would make it work. If I wanted to turn Billie Holiday around here, I can go up to Edit and Transform, and let's flip horizontal, and she faces that way now. And let's take and put her up here. All right. I could even take, actually that might be a good idea, taking where I've got her here, and if I were to cut out pieces of her and replace this woman's head with Billie Holiday's head and leave the headphones on. Okay, so that could be one way that I could play around with it. Okay, and get a whole new kind of look. Okay, so use your imagination on this one. Come up with a design that you're happy with and that meets the assignment criteria. You still will need to put text in, so make sure that you leave a place that is kind of natural for adding text. But again, you can work from your collage idea. It can be something like this where it is taking up all the space, or it could be something like this where it is very a central element with all this extra space out around it. Okay, this kind of has that same thing going on. You'd still have plenty of space to advertise or to add text describing what your event is up through here, with the lower part being primary images. This one, you've still got a lot of space. This one gets a little bit chaotic. You would have to kind of go over the top of your images to make it work. All right, go team, go.